So, hi everybody. For the kids who are remote, the people who are not here, I'll do things a little bit differently tonight. And that is, if a question comes to you, send it to Gimli, which is to say, Broha's communication device. And Gimli gets to scan, decide whether or not to interrupt me, whether the question's important. And if someone here has a question and doesn't have a communication device, you're still living in the last century, perhaps you could write it on a piece of paper and give it to Gimli. I'm sure someone here could provide pieces of paper and pens that we could put there. All right. Normally I don't want to be interrupted, but tonight, if there's something that really feels important to you, just ask. And Gimli will decide whether or not it interrupts all of us. So how's everybody doing? This last week's been strange. Not just for you. It's been strange for a few people. Yeah. Last time we talked, or the time before that, I talked about the sadness and how there was so much sadness that everybody was carrying, and that it wasn't really. It was more like enthusiasm or excitement, but you didn't know how to experience it, so you thought it was sadness or fear or confusion. This last week, most of you haven't been feeling as much sadness, but you have been feeling more of its opposite. That kind of bubbling enthusiasm, excitement. But if you don't know what it is, it comes across as intimidating, scary. I must not be grounded. Oh, this craziness going on. What's wrong? Well, basically it's the same lesson we spoke of last time, but my suggestion to you here is going to be for the next week. Try and look at this different. Try and stand this thing on its head. When you start to feel this tension or anxiety, bubbling feeling here, don't think, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong, I'm scared, I'm out of power. Instead think, I'm excited. Something really cool must be happening somewhere. Maybe I don't know what it is, maybe something in my guts is finally sorting itself out, but I'm excited. And just for a little while, as strange as it might be, give yourself permission to feel excited. Tell yourself it's okay to be a little nervous, as long as I'm also recognizing that this could be a really cool thing. It's okay to be excited. It's okay to celebrate. And if you're out in some public place, you don't have to do the yay that we talked about. You don't have to make this celebration thing really obvious. If you don't know what that means, look at the tape from last time. The tape. I date myself. The digital recording from last time. Mm-hmm. When I was a child in this body, there were no digital recorders. If you recorded something, it was on a cassette tape, or a reel-to-reel. So I want to encourage each of you, all of you, especially those of you who have a habit of being sad or disappointed, to watch for this feeling when it comes up. It may be a tightening in the throat or trouble taking a deep breath, or for those of you who know what it is, a feeling like the start of an anxiety attack. And don't, go sit in a dark room and breathe into a paper bag, because this is an anxiety. Quite possibly this is enthusiasm. And I know that's strange, because if you read the newspaper, if you watch the news, if you find news online, it's telling you that the swine flu or the bird flu or the porcupine flu or whatever the latest drama is going to kill all of us next week, and that major earthquakes are about to happen, and an asteroid's going to strike and kill us all, and the CIA is running some, oh, now I've said it, they're listening, running some secret plot to take over the world. No, it's all nonsense. The media, the press, the people who sit behind things, they want you scared. They want you thinking the world's about to end. What I want you to do this next week is to stop worrying about that. Just for the next 7 days. It's Saturday, so that's not so long. For the next 7 days, I'd like you to watch for this bubbling up feeling here, or this nervous feeling here, or even kind of a slightly ulcer, right? A peptic ulcer kind of feeling. Anything that makes you think you're nervous. And when it happens, I want you to stop for a moment and close your eyes and really feel it. Because most of the time, well, my master's degree is in psychology. And so one of the places I draw examples from is psychology. And I learned when I studied psychology the idea that most people see someone only once. That is, the first time they meet someone, they look at them and study the shape of their face, or how far apart their eyes are, or all the things that make up a distinct set of features. Then they store that. And every time after, when they see that person or a picture of that person, they just recognize. They do a kind of mental shorthand. Check the various features. Okay, I know that person. And they never really look at them again. I mean, maybe if you get a dramatically different haircut, or change your hair color, or, get run over by a bus and have your eyes rearranged, people will say, "You look different." But for the most part, people never look at one another a second time. They look only a first time, and ever after just do this mental shortcut to recognize. And it's like that with most of our feelings. There's a recording somewhere out there in the digital space I did saying love is awareness. Love and awareness are the same thing. The long and short of it is that it's incredibly important to be aware, just to pay attention. Not, he's wearing a red shirt, you're not wearing shoes. That's a very surface stuff, but to actually be aware of the people we're looking at. To try and see what's going on inside and get a feeling for what they're feeling. To look at the set of their shoulders and see if they're doing this, or if they look like this. To really pay attention to them and study them and notice them, and not just do this mental shorthand. And this is what I want you to do for your emotions. Because most of us have gotten very lazy. We see 2 or 3 indicators and we say, oh, it's this emotion, so here's how I'm supposed to feel, I'll do this. Right? There's this tension here, and my eyebrows are doing this, and my face is going, so I must be angry, so let me look for a thing to be angry about. Ah, that guy, I'm so pissed off at that guy. And then you go through a whole series of steps, all kinds of habits you built up about what you have to do when you're angry. I want you to change this. Awareness is the most powerful tool we have. In some sense, it's our most sacred gift. I want you to practice being aware. When you notice this, or this, I don't want you to say, aha, that's anger, and then go through all the silly steps. I want you to say, what does this feel like? Let me look in a mirror and see what it looks like. Maybe I just have a headache, and that's why I'm doing this. Maybe I need to put my glasses on, or need new glasses, or maybe it's something else. Let me actually study it. I want you to pay attention to your feelings, both the physical feelings and the emotional feelings. And the most important one I want you to watch for this next 7 days is this feeling that I'm telling you is excitement, because it's going to feel like drama. It's going to feel like chaos. It's going to feel like nervous. It's going to feel like anxious, afraid, like you're not good enough, like whatever your particular thing is when you start getting emotionally activated. I want you to take a close look and see if, instead of looking at this and this, if you can put yourself down here and feel. And see if you can sense your joy center kind of bubbling and something in your gut's going, oh my God, this is so exciting. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. It's just see if you can find that. I won't guarantee it'll be there all the time, but I guarantee it'll be there some of the time. And if you're not watching for it, you're going to be calling your teachers, you're going to be calling your friends, you're going to be eating ice cream or getting drunk or whatever it is you do to cover up being nervous and chaotic. Yes, I know, these ideas are hard to swallow. You choke on them a little bit. But it's important. It's important that you consider that there is much more than just what's on the surface, that you look deep enough. And I guarantee you, at least some of the time, if you look deep enough, you're going to find that you're excited, that you're enthusiastic, because there are wonderful things happening in the world. This is tough to tell on the surface. If you look, our energy resources are running out. All these countries are coming to war. The world's working on a deficit spending, and it's all going to fall apart any day now. And it's easy to see the messiness. But that's because that's what all the media shows you. If every time something wonderful happened, the media had an article about it, this person just gave away all of their wealth to build, homes for these homeless kids, or this person just gave up a job making lots of money to do something where they're helping people. All of these people, all of the people in the world are acting, doing, interfacing, but an increasing number are doing things to help people. An increasing number, if you could see the statistics, are actually getting involved. They care about the environment. They care about the people who are hurting. They're trying to end the major places of crisis, of pain in the world. They're trying to end the injustice and make the world something more amazing. And there's an increasing amount of this going on. If you know where to look, you can find it. If you're sensitive enough, you can feel it. There's an increasing amount of the good stuff, the amazing stuff happening. And it looks like, any day now somebody could set off a nuclear bomb and start World War III, and, in 200 years there'll be nothing left but the cockroaches evolving from, where they are to someplace where the cockroaches run the world. And that's easy to see. But I'm telling you, that's not all there is. Yeah, things could go wrong. Yeah, things can always be painful or bad or difficult. But there's an increasing amount of beauty in the world. There is an increasing number of people who are aware of multiple cultures, of multiple religions, of multiple perspectives and ideas. There's an increasing number of scientists who are willing to consider the meta. There are an increasing number of people in the meta field who are willing to put their stuff out there to be tested by scientists. Instead of keeping these separate, they're interfacing them. There's an increasing number of religious people who are accepting the ideas of science, an increasing number of scientific people accepting the ideas of religion, an increasing number of atheists recognizing that there must be more and I want more out of my life. There are an increasing number of people in every group saying, I want to look closer, I want to be more aware, I want to be more involved, I want to help and I want to be helped. And because of it, there are a lot of really remarkable things going on. And I know we go to work, or we go to school, and we come home tired, and we've got kids or homework or all kinds of stuff to deal with around the house. We've got our own personal problems. And then we've only got so many hours, so we sit down and watch television a bit to relax while we do some of our evening things, and pretty soon our day's gone, and we go to sleep, and we get up and do it again. And I know that this is how life works, and I know it keeps us busy. And with all of that, it's very difficult to find time to search for the good stuff that's happening in the world. So in this, I don't usually do this because I want you to find your own way, but in this I'm going to ask you to trust me, that there is good stuff going on out there. About the important stuff, about this whole Elfpath process, I don't expect you to trust me. All of the Elfpath is about teaching you to ask the right questions, not giving you the answers. It's about showing you how to look inside and find your own truth and make your own decisions. So in that, you don't have to trust anybody but yourself. In this, take a risk and trust me. There's good stuff going on. And it's real easy To see yourself over here and someone over there and think of us all as just separate little automatons marching through life, but we're not. Every one of the great teachers, every one of the masters who's been around over the last many thousands of years has spoken of the web of life. That there's something that links us all together. You sense it sometimes when the phone rings and you say, that's going to be so-and-so. Or, I wish so-and-so would come by, and then your doorbell rings. You sense it sometimes when you're thinking about someone and they walk into your life that night. You sense it sometimes when you're working on something and somebody else is working on that same something, just happens to walk up and talk to you, and you get to do it together. It's not always clear, this web of life, but it connects us all. And every once in a while you can just get a tentative feel of it. Everything out there, everything is connected to everything else. And every one of your teachers, every one of your great authors, all of them have acknowledged this. All of them have recognized there's something that connects us all. And this piece, this something, this web of life that connects us all, this piece recognizes that there is exciting stuff happening in the world. That there is cause for celebration. That, there's cause for confusion and sadness and all the rest. But right now, even just in this last week, some amazing things have happened. And there is increasing cause to celebrate and be happy. And so I'm not telling you to go buy a bunch of fireworks and throw a big party or, invite all your friends and get drunk. And, if you want to, you do that. But what I'm asking you to do is to pay attention. When you feel this nervous or upset or frightened, to look deep inside and imagine for just a moment that it might be that you're really excited. And look for that and sense it. Are you? Is it exciting? Is it that you're just really turned on right now by how amazing things could be, by how things are starting to change, by the new kids that are being born into this world, by the kids who've been born over the last 30 years, finally reaching an age of maturity, where they're stepping in to run the businesses, to take public offices, to become doctors and lawyers and judges, and the people who influence our society. These things are going on. These things are extremely important and need to be excited. Things we need to be excited about. So, that's my first suggestion. Over the next week, watch for this and decide that it just might be excitement, and see if you can feel it. Now, anybody here who's going to say that the world is just perfect and doesn't need to change and it should go on like this for another 1,000 years? Anybody think everything's okay? No? I think most of us think it would be really cool if some things changed. If nobody were starving to death. If war and stupid violence were to end. If we could all get a decent education if we wanted one. If we could all pursue the career that we wanted. Or have a family without worrying about, can I find a job and can I feed them? If some of the basics were taken care of for the science fiction types among you, a sort of Star Trek world, where at least the basics are taken care of and everybody's comfortable and most of disease is taken care of. This would be a world we could live in. A world where we had enough energy, where there were no energy crisis problems, where there were no fossil fuels running out. There are things that we can all imagine changing. Things we'd like to see change. Things we'd like to see different. Fair? So let me suggest to you, and I know this is a really complicated idea, so you're going to have to wrap your brain around it, but for things to be different, they have to change. Oh yeah, I know, that's a tough one, but things can't stay the same and be different. Doesn't work. Somebody tell me, what's the scariest thing for your average human being to deal with? Change. I don't know why, but when big changes start happening, people freak out. They get nervous, they get afraid, they get upset, they get scared. All of their control dramas, all of their past, all of their gut muck starts coming out full volume. Because change is scary. When you've done this your whole life and it's safe, to change is very difficult. But for the world to be different, it has to change. And see, if the world changes, you're part of this world, which means you have to change. Every one of you, over the next week, over the next year, over the next decade, you're going to have to change. And sometimes it's big ways. You may have to change an attitude you've held your entire life. You may have to get rid of a prejudice that you've had your entire life. You may end up changing your sexual orientation. You may end up changing your job, changing your career. You may have thought your whole life you wanted to do this, and suddenly it doesn't feel right anymore, and you end up going in a totally different direction. This is okay. This is change. It's scary, yep, it's definitely scary. But the only way that this world can change is if every one of us is willing to change. And if you're not willing to change, when this world starts to change, you're going to be in trouble. You're not willing to buy a car unless it runs on gasoline. Well, we develop some sort of new fuel, and gasoline is a thing of the past. You're going to be hitchhiking. You're going to have to change as the world changes. And the more it changes, and the faster it changes, the more and the faster you're going to have to change. And I don't care who you are, some of the time it's going to scare you. Now, maybe if you get your black belt in this Elfpath stuff and you're one of these super stable, confident people, it won't bother you as much. But even the black belts are uncomfortable with change sometimes. They fight, they struggle, they kick and scream a little bit. They don't kick as much, they don't scream as loud, but there's still a little of that. So I want to, as a second piece here, the first is I want you to begin to be aware of the possibility of excitement. The second is I want you to begin to accept the idea of change. Something new, I guarantee you, for almost every one of you, something new is going to come into your life in the next week. Something unfamiliar, something a little strange, maybe exciting, maybe uncomfortable. I would like each of you, when that thing comes in, to try and remember this moment. Think, wait a minute, this is a new thing. Oh gosh, I may have to change. I'm going to try this new thing. Whatever it is, something new is going to come to each of you. Maybe not every one of you, but most of you. In the next week, watch for it. And when it comes, consider welcoming it, trying it, embracing it, exploring this new possibility, even if it's uncomfortable or strange, even if it's awkward or unfamiliar or uncertain. Embrace the change when it comes to you. And to bring this back to our first point, when it does, when you're trying something new, even if it's just a new kind of food or visiting a new establishment, when you're doing it, I want you to watch in here for this thing you're going to think of as fear or anxiety. And say, I recognize this. This is actually excitement. A little hard to believe, because it feels like fear, but this is a new thing, and new can be different, it can be fun, all kinds of things could happen. This is actually excitement. So, this is my second. First, I want you to be aware of the possibility of excitement. Second, I want you to look for something in your life that's going to call you to a change this week. And when it does, say yes. Say yes, and try and find that sense of excitement. I can feel several of you, your necks are tensing up and your shoulders are getting tense. No, not going to do it. Not going to change. That's okay. See, unless you think that God magically made you out of dust 6,000 years ago, most of you, I think, are past this idea. Unless you think this, you recognize that you evolved from something else. Probably something hairier and smellier. Before that, something with scales, and before that, a little bitty squiggly thing swimming around in a slime pond somewhere. And see, in every one of those stages, through your phylogenetic progress, in every one of those stages through evolution, the little squiggly thing that ate the same little squiggly foods that all the other little squiggly things ate, it survived. And the little squiggly thing that says, "Ooh, that's shiny and new, I'm going to try it," probably didn't. You go through life trying every new thing that comes along, especially when you're a little squiggly thing, you're likely to get eaten or to eat something that's very bad for you. And those things, those little squiggly things, or those scaly things, or those more hairy, smelly things, who tried new and different things, they didn't survive to pass on their genes. And the ones that were desperately focused on only doing the same things everybody else was doing, the same things they've always done, they survived and passed on their genetics. And so what I'm telling you is that this fear of change is something that's ingrained into your biology. It's way down here in the lizard brain. It's in your bones. It's in the fluid in your joints. It's part of you at a very deep level. And so it's not going to change overnight, this fear of change, this fear of new things. But this time in history, it's necessary to move beyond it. Now, people who don't study biology probably have this idea that over billions of years, things very slowly change into other things that change into other things, and that's not how it works. Anybody who studies biology, or anybody who's intuitive enough, will tell you that things tend to stay the same, more or less, for a very long time, and there will come a point, perhaps a comet strikes, or a drought, a major drought that lasts several hundred years, an expansion of the desert like the Sahara is doing now, an ice age. And what happens is, in a very short time, as far as the entire history of evolution, in a very short time, a lot of changes will happen until a new stable critter comes along. And then there'll be a very long time where things are mostly stable, and another time will come where something requires the creatures to change very fast, and they'll change quickly to a new level. So evolution is not this slow, steady progress. It's more like a stair-step. It's called punctuated equilibria, a stage where things are equilibrious, where they're stable, where there's an equity, punctuated by a period of rapid change and another stable period. We are at one of those places. Not just humans, every creature on this planet is being faced with one of those punctuation points. Right now, for the last 50 years and for the next 150 years, a lot of change has to happen. And humans are not evolved to handle lots of chaotic change. We're evolved to be stable and steady. So I'm telling you that there are times in the next 50 years where a lot of you are going to be uncomfortable, uncertain, unhappy, but it's necessary. So much is changing right now, and so much will change over the next 50 to 150 years, that it's necessary to begin to embrace change, to seek it, to try to find it in your life, to encourage it and explore it, to allow it. And when it happens, to try and celebrate it, to try and find that response to change as excitement. And 300 or 400 years from now, if any of you are still around, people will be returning to this stable equilibrium point. And if you're still there, you'll be saying, "Oh, let's try something new." And they'll ask you why this works. We've always done this. No, you've done it for the last 100 years. But they won't know that. They'll say, "We've always done this," and they'll return to that stable place. We have the challenge, this generation, in the human history. We have the challenge of facing one of these punctuated points between stages of equilibria. We have the challenge of facing this new and different and challenging and changing time and seeing what we become of it. And because of it, it's one of the most exciting times in the history of humanity to be alive. Because all sorts of cool stuff can happen. And when all sorts of changes are happening, we can go in any direction we want and become anything we want and do anything we want. At very stable times, you don't have a lot of mobility. You tend to stay in the class you're born in the place you're born. This is an exciting time to be alive. It's also kind of a scary time. So, that's perhaps 3 different ways to say the same thing. Watch, especially over the next week, for new changes. When they come, be open to them. And as you explore them, try and interpret them with excitement, enthusiasm, not with fear or anxiety. Gimli hasn't interrupted me yet. Does that mean nobody in the world has questions? Or Gimli's just scared to say?
Just about to poke people for some.
Ah, okay. Something else I'd like you to understand, all of you, is that right now, as you're changing, and the people around you are changing, people you've been with your whole life aren't going to be as comfortable to be around anymore. They just won't be as interesting to you. And people you haven't known are going to be more interesting or more comfortable. Because you're changing and they're changing. When that happens, people change in different directions. And so this is a time to begin to have a lot more integrity in our interactions with others. When you meet a complete stranger and they ask how you're feeling, don't say, "I'm fine," or whatever the local equivalent is in your area. Stop that. "Oh, I'm fine. All good. No sweat. No problem. It's all okay." Instead, when you meet new people, look inside with as much integrity as possible and say, "This is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. This is what's real for me." And if there's someone going through changes themselves, they'll be so startled. "Wow! You didn't just say, 'I'm fine.' You gave me a real answer. That's so cool." And they'll give you a real answer. And in this way, we are going to meet new people. A lot of new people. And this is necessary. With everything changing, the people who have been most close to us are likely to change in different directions than us. And if you have an intimate enough connection with someone and you share everything, you can work it so that as you change together. And so with the people you know and care about, I encourage far more integrity and intimacy. That is, stop lying to them even about little things. Tell them what you really feel, who you really are, what's really going on inside. Be as real as possible, so that as you can change together. And with people you don't know, people you've never met, complete strangers, have as much integrity and passion and life, honesty as possible. Because likely these people could become very good friends in a very short time. When things are changing fast, this is a time when strong friendships are formed. So this is my next suggestion to you. Begin to be far more open, honest, have more integrity and passion and power and purpose in your relationships. And in case any of you is unaware, that's scary. When a stranger asks how you feel, actually giving them an honest answer, that's scary. Far you just, "Oh, I'm fine, it's all good, don't look too close." It's far easier to lie. And so this is also going to be a thing that evokes a lot of fear, a lot of panic, a lot of anxiety. And when that happens, we're going to do the same thing we did with the last. We're going to try and stand it on its head. Instead of saying, "Oh, I feel nervous or anxious or upset about saying what I really mean to a stranger," we're going to try and turn it upside down and say, "Oh, all this stuff that I'm feeling, this is actually excitement. Because this could turn out to be a good friend who's a good friend for the next 50 or 60 years. And, that's a lot of responsibility right now. And so, yeah, I'm nervous and I'm excited. And it's not afraid. It's not scared. It's not panicked. It's actually enthusiastic. It's excited about the potential for new and wonderful things to come into your life. And if you can't do this thing, what's going to happen is the people around you are going to continue to change. Not just now, but over the next 50 years. The people around you are going to continue to change, and they're going to be uncomfortable for you. All these people are different. They're not the ones you know. They're not doing what you expect. They're not behaving. And you're going to be really uncomfortable and awkward and uncertain because all the people that you knew and trusted have changed and you're all alone. And so, if you cannot begin to live with much greater integrity, you're going to have to live a lot more alone. You have to live inside yourself and by yourself. Now, within the next 50 years, it's going to be harder to do. Just, if any of you should live that long, you're going to find out more and more people are going to be able to do what I do naturally. The kids who are being born today are being born empathic, being born meta-intuitive, being born aware at levels that we can't even imagine, most of us. These kids, even, they're this big, they're just little tiny critters, and they're able to tell what you're feeling. They're able to reach inside you and see who you really are no matter what you tell them. And more of these people are coming into the world. And amongst those of us who are past this little bitty stage, there's an increasing number of groups like Elfpath around the world that are teaching people how to be meta-intuitive. You're not just born with this or you're not. Oops, sorry, you didn't get any. You can learn these skills. You can learn to pay attention, to sense what people are feeling, to ken what's going on deep inside. And so it's going to be harder and harder to look at people and say, I'm fine, don't bother me, and go off on your own, because people are going to know, they're going to sense. You're not fine. I sense that you're really sad about something. No, don't. I want to pretend I'm fine, leave me alone. And it's going to be more and more difficult to do. That's not going to happen tonight. I wish it would. But most of you would go crazy if change happened that quickly, so we have to be a little more gentle. But over the next 50 years, the kids who are being born today, when they're running the companies that we work for, when they're the elected officials, the judges, the police officers, that sensitivity is going to become part of the system. It's going to become part of everything and everyone. And we're not going to be able to hide from it. And so for now, if you cannot do this integrity thing, get used to being alone. But if you plan to live another 40 or 50 years, don't expect to last being alone and isolated. More and more, this integrity, this empathy, this communal feeling, this awareness of the web of life is going to become ubiquitous. Everyone's going to have it. Everything's going to have it. And I know that some of this stuff sounds kind of crazy, but I'm toning it down for you. What I sense, what I really sense, when I drop into the map and look at things at a deep enough level, is so dramatically different, so much more than what I'm saying. I'm giving you baby steps. I don't want you to freak out and run away screaming. All right, if your hands are up here, this should be a celebration, not panic. So I'm just giving you the first steps. And when the time comes for the bigger changes, it's not going to be terrifying. It's not going to be overwhelming, because you've made the small steps at every waypoint along the way. You're going to be ready. And you're going to be excited. You're going to celebrate. And when you get up in the morning and read whatever is the equivalent of the newspaper then, and only find good news, this is the 10th year without a war anywhere in the world. Big celebration of the 10-year anniversary. This kind of thing is, well, of course. And you're just going to be happy about it. You're going to go to a job you enjoy and hang out with people you like and live with integrity and purpose, and you're going to feel a sense of satisfaction. Wow, this is what it's like to really be honest, to really live in a life, to feel, to share with people who care about me and who I care about. And this, it's not going to be scary or overwhelming or difficult. You will have grown into it as it changes. You will evolve as this world is evolving. And as we get there, it'll just get more cool and more fun and more exciting. So, this isn't bad stuff. This is potentially wonderful. This is new. This is exciting. It's strange, but it's not scary. The world is evolving. The potential for major catastrophe or world-ending chaos, this potential is mostly gone. And from here, we are moving very quickly to the potential for some very wonderful things. And so rather than telling you, all right, go out and work to change the world, go out and try and stop, deforestation or pollution or global catastrophe or, rising sea levels or melting polar caps, I'm telling you instead, go out and embrace change in your life. Go out and look for things to celebrate, and when you find them, talk to people about them. Encourage other people to celebrate, because other people are still running around, oh my God, the world's ending, the sky is falling, what will I do? And if you can tell them, there's a good chance it's going to be all right. Look for the things to celebrate and celebrate them. If you want to work for change, by all means still do it. I'm not saying stop that. I'm just saying don't do it from panic. Don't do it from fear. Do it because we have a vision of a world that's so amazing we want to live in it. Full of people so wonderful we want to relate to them and connect with them and share with them. Do it with this vision in mind and not out of panic about the end of the world. And so it leaves us about 15 minutes, and it's really most of what I wanted to say. Take this fear and make it into excitement, or recognize that it really is excitement. It's just hard to understand. Look for changes in your life and embrace them. And with people, begin to explore much greater integrity, passion, vitality, purpose. Every day. And for the next 7 days, really focus on these things. Really pay attention. And if you do, you're going to start to notice them. You're going to start to sense these things I'm talking about. And as we do this, it will be far easier to dance within the waves of change, rather than being smashed by each new wave as it comes in. We can dance, we can swim, we can splash and surf in these waves. But if any of you have ever spent time in the ocean, if the waves are coming in here and you're facing that way, every new wave smacks you in the back of the head. And if you're not careful, it plants your face in the sand. And from experience, I can tell you that's really unpleasant. All you have to do is turn around and face the waves coming in. And when they do, you can jump in them and you can splash and you can play. It just takes turning around and looking at the change that's coming. And being willing to dance, to play, to celebrate. Yet, sometimes it's still going to be hard. Some things are still going to be messy. If you have unresolved issues in your guts, if you still have issues with your mom and dad, your men and fen, if your joy center is still out of balance, there's still going to be messy times. It's not all going to be bubbly champagne and roses or whatever is your idea of celebration. There are going to be tough times. But knowing there are going to be tough times, we can take them at face value when they come. And we can celebrate the really amazing times when they come. Instead of saying, oh no, I don't know what's going to go wrong today. Look for what's going to be right. Celebrate it, dance with it, play with it, and try as much as possible to hold that sense of excitement. Now, in the last 15 minutes here, does anyone have questions they would like to ask?
I'm new here, so you are talking about changing, but change what?
Changing to what?
Yeah. Or just change to change.
Are you asking how does the world change, or asking how should you personally change?
Maybe personal.
How do you personally change? What do you personally change? Well, here's my theory. And if it sounds simple, understand it comes from a whole lot of research. My theory is that your life cares about you. You are not a stray, abandoned scrap of sentience, born briefly and then poofed out of existence when you die. You are something much larger, who lives much longer. And this is just one life that you're experiencing. And in this life cares about you. Your life loves you. And if you decide you want change in your life isn't going to say, I'm going to put you in a wheelchair or take away your eyesight or, kill the people you love because that's change. It's going to say, you want change, okay. And it's going to throw something at you. And it will be something, even the ones that seem like a problem, that seem difficult. These problems come with gifts. This is too much, I can't handle that. But if we can embrace that change as it comes, a gift will come out and we'll say, wow, if that hadn't happened, I never would have realized this, and this is so amazing, and I'm so happy to have had this experience. So what I'm telling you is it doesn't matter. You decide you're ready to change, and your life will bring to you opportunities to change. And as much as possible, embrace them all. Now, if you have a job you love and a new job comes along, you don't have to take it. I'm not saying change everything about you. What I'm saying is that when you're ready to change, life will come to you and say, here's a change. Try this one. It may be a new friend, it may be a new lover, it may be a new job, it may be a new course of study, it may just be adding a minor into your major course of study. Changes will come to you, and you don't have to jump at every one. What I want you to do is to respond from joy. Here, this is a change I can be excited about. I'll try it. And not from fear. Oh my God, if I don't do this, then my life is going to be screwed up because I don't know how to change. No, I don't want the fear. I want you to find excitement, joy, enthusiasm, and change wherever possible from those feelings. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Gimli.
Well, Sparkles had a similar question, but that's already been answered. And he also has a few minutes of lag, so...
Yes, excuses are nice. What's your question? You don't get to hide in a little bubble. You said you want to be seen, so put it out there. You can do it.
Yes, I'm unsure how to turn this anxiety into excitement. Yes.
How do I turn the anxiety into excitement? That's a confusing question. What I'm telling you is not turn your anxiety into excitement. You don't add baking soda and water and shake vigorously. It's not some little magical or alchemical formula. What I want you to do is consider. Right? Normally, the things that seem like anxiety, this sort of jittery, bubbly feeling here, maybe a churning in your guts, maybe tension here, these things that seem like anxiety are just physiological symptoms. Yes? They're just symptoms in your body. And so what I'm telling you is not magically turn this into this. Shazam! What I'm telling you is when these feelings come up, just consider maybe this isn't anxiety. Maybe it's excitement. And just consider, what if it is excitement? Close your eyes for a moment and look deep down here. What if it is excitement? Let me see if I can find something like excitement. Instead of going, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Say, wow, hey, this could really be cool. And just for a second, hold it. And maybe out of 30 minutes of what you think of as anxiety, you only find 10 seconds of excitement. That's a start. Right? You don't have to magically change things about yourself. What I want you to do is be aware. Just be aware. Because what I'm telling you is that what's going on is, in many cases, excitement. You just misinterpret it. Because the physiological symptoms have the same shape, the same form, the same smell. And so when these physiological symptoms come up, go deep inside and say, what if it is excitement? What would it feel like? And watch yourself start to smile a little bit. Go, ooh, hey, maybe this is exciting. Yes? And this is much more approachable. This isn't, well, you have to change this into this. This isn't a responsibility. This isn't hard work. This isn't confusing. This is just awareness. Because love and awareness are the same thing. This is love of yourself. To be aware of what's going on. And when you're aware, when you're really truly paying attention, ask yourself, could this be excitement? Is what I'm feeling really excitement? Is this enthusiasm? And if it is, then let yourself feel that. And if it is panic, well, then run around and wave your hands in the air and scream for a moment and then breathe into a paper bag. And, you know, when you're done, then say, all right, is there some excitement in there too? Fair enough?
Yes.
Other questions? How do I know this stuff?
Yeah.
Is that the question I hear?
Yeah, I was about to ask you. You said next week there'd be a change. Like, it's going to be for everybody, or how do you feel it? How do you sense it?
How do I sense it is not a useful question, because it's not one you could understand. Let's say I turn the temperature up in this room by 10 degrees. How would you sense it? And what would you sense?
Warm or something?
You might start sweating.
Yeah.
You might start fanning yourself. You might start breathing faster. You'd be uncomfortable. This is a sense, yes? And you have enough experience in your past that when you have this, oh, there's sweat running down my face, and oh, hey, this means it's warm. It's not complicated, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. I sense things, and I have enough experience to say, oh, wait, I can interpret this experience. And so my senses are far beyond what most people have. And I sense these things. I can drop down into a deeper level and actually trace the underlying web, what I call the map, in quite a large number of different dimensions. And I can sense potentialities. This is going to happen. This is not. This is likely to happen. A lot of potentials are leading this way. This is a skill I have practiced over many, many years. It is a skill you could learn. It's not, I'll speak carefully, it's magic in the Arthur C. Clarke sense, that any technology sufficiently far advanced is indistinguishable from magic. It's magic in that no one really understands this. But it's not any more magic than a baseball player, a really good baseball player, watching the pitcher start to throw and say he's going to throw a curveball. There'll be something in the way his arm comes out, that most of us wouldn't see. But a skilled baseball player would say, I know that one, that's going to be a curveball, so I won't bother to swing at that. It's, there's a book that might be called The Tipping Point. I think that's the name of it. Got a matchbook on the cover. And this guy talks about experts in different fields who will recognize a thing in seconds that normal people can't. For instance, a piece of art, a statue from Greece, was acquired by, I think, the Louvre. And all these different people came in and authenticated it as being phenomenally valuable, the only one of its kind ever been discovered, and the Louvre was going to pay lots and lots of money from it. But this one particular expert went in, and in his first 3 seconds he said, it's a fake. How do you, I don't know. I just feel it. And when they did the right set of tests, it turned out it was a fake. Somebody had created a fake from that time and gone through all kinds of trouble to age it and bake it and to make it look very real. And this expert knew in just seconds, because there are thousands of tiny data points that a skilled chef or a skilled wine taster or anyone, a skilled baseball player, anyone who's a skilled expert, who's developed a lot of skill at perceiving, will add up all those tiny pieces and say, all of that leads to this conclusion. And normal people would look at it and say, by normal, I don't mean unexceptional people, I mean people without that experience, would look at that and say, I don't get it. How can you know that? And so what I'm telling you is that in this at least I will claim to be an expert. That I spent many, many years learning to sense potentialities far beyond what normal people sense. And instead of just being overwhelmed by them, to actually add them up, to collate them, to run them against an inner database and say, oh, I recognize this set of things that leads to that. And so this is how I sense this. And I don't expect that to make complete sense, because in essence what I'm telling you is you can't understand it. Any more than you understand how that baseball player would know it's going to be a curveball. They just pick up all the little subtle clues and add them up and run it against their database and say, it's going to be a curveball, and they're probably correct. Next question.
I have a question. So you came to the conclusion that change was going to come?
I'm not the only... Did I come to the conclusion change is going to come? Yes.
Yeah, in the next week. Right? That's what you said? But did you mean for all of us?
What I said is that for most of the people here and most of the people listening, some significant opportunity for change is going to come in the next week. I can sense this. For everyone, no. There will be a few who are not. But for almost everyone. So if you're paying attention, some opportunity for change will come. Now that's change in a small or, in your life, potentially large way. But this isn't world-size change. When we look at world-size change, I'll lead you to people like the Mayans, who've had a calendar going for tens of thousands of years, that they say is all coming to a major change right now. That the I Ching calculations by Terence McKenna, I think, he calculated this major pattern of change through the last 10 or 15,000 years. And what he found is that the change was compressing and compressing, getting faster and faster to, he said, something's going to happen around the year 2011, I think was his first prediction. That changes will be coming so fast that we have no idea what's going to happen. Now, I read a book by a computer expert 10 years ago saying, I'm mapping the gentleman said, I'm mapping the amount of stored information and how rapidly it's growing, and I'm mapping how the computer field is changing. He said, what I see is in the next 10 years, somewhere between 2010 and 2020, that the changes in computer technology are going to become so great that technology will start changing itself. The technology will start changing people. And when this happens, there is no way to predict what's going to happen after that. There is what he called a discontinuity, a place in the graph of change where it's discontinuous. There's no way to predict what's going to happen. And he made this expert, the same tracing of change in the field of bacteriology, in the field of biology, and in half a dozen others. He said all of these different experts are all saying that somewhere between 2008 and 2020, there's going to be some major change so big we can't predict the size and shape of it. And so religion, science, computer technology, prophets, mystics, everyone is saying that this is a time of major and massive change. It's not just me, one guy you've never seen before. Experts all over the world are telling us that this is a time of major change in human history. And so as far as the big change, I'm telling you, everybody who's paying attention is saying it. This is a huge, amazing, astounding time of change. And if you're aware enough, you can track the smaller pieces within that. And so tracking the smaller pieces within that, I'm suggesting that this week, most of you are going to be offered some interesting, intriguing chance at change. And I'm encouraging you to take it. Now, with that said, it's been about an hour, so I will say good night, good luck, have an amazing week. Gimli, shut that camera off. Yes.
Someone next to
Gimli. Gimli?
Stuff I put earlier, it's still being open. It's sticking out.